Welcome to Books and Things. The weather outside it's frightful. It's not snowing, but it is frightful out there. And I hope everybody's sitting in the air conditioning like we are. Anyway, my guest tonight is an author. He's a Kappa member. And he writes a number of books that we'll get into. But he's also I can put my glasses on. He's also a physician, board certified in both pediatrics and allergy and immunology. That's what I am, not one because I can't say it.
Okay.
He retired in 2008 and began writing novels for publication, then written a lot of short stories, etc. And he's self-published 4 novels to date, and he's working on a 5th. Lived in Connecticut most of his life with his wife of 47 years, Margaret, and #1 reader and editor. And where do you live?
We live in Shelton.
Shelton.
Yeah, we used to live in Trumbull, but we moved to Shelton a few years ago.
His name is Bill Rockwell, but he doesn't paint. Or do you?
No artistic talent. My son has the artistic talent. He does the covers of the book.
Oh, and he does a good job with
it didn't. It skipped me. It came from my wife's side. I have no talent.
That's
no
me. I have nothing.
Nothing.
But you write, so that's a good thing. His latest book is Death of the Innocents, which is a Detective Murph mystery. And I just finished reading it. And I got to tell you, it's very interesting. He talks about abortions and pro and con, and I learned a lot. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Tom.
It's a pleasure having you here.
And thank you for having me
So
here.
what made you write that book?
Well, a couple of things. I had an idea for the story, and I happened to be watching a Catholic Christian TV station, and the lady on it was an author, and she was writing a factual book, not a fiction book, and she was doing it to describe what happens in abortion. And she said it was very graphic and almost horrifically so.
Yeah.
And I thought nobody's going to read that book who wants to learn anything about it because it's graphic, and unless you're a physician, a lot of that horrendous descriptions are not enjoyable. So I decided I could take the story and place it in. I needed an industry anyway. It could be in the TV industry, it could be in anything.
Yeah.
But I decided to put it in the abortion industry, have him investigate both sides because the woman was obviously murdered, had an abortion.
Yeah.
So he had to do both the pro and the pro-lifers and the abortion clinic where she had it. And that way I could tell both sides of the story.
Yeah.
So
And
that's where it came from.
And you're obviously lean toward the pro.
I lean towards the pro,
which is not bad. I mean, it's not a bad thing.
No.
And what we were discussing, and I'm really not going to get into a big controversy with the pros and the not. But I'm of the opinion, and you are too, it's a woman's choice.
Yes.
It's her body. She's the one that's got to live with it. So.
As a woman said to me, if it's for her body, she wants it to be pro-life because she could never destroy the child.
Yeah.
But if it's another woman, she doesn't want to make that decision for her, so it should be that woman's choice.
And it should.
So it's both. Both are correct.
And you can't make it illegal.
No.
Because we know what that was like.
Yeah, exactly.
People die right away.
Right away.
It's not just a baby.
And that's why the clinic that I put in there is modeled after a legitimate clinic that we have in Bridgeport, where the women get the breast exams. They get everything they need.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate clinic. Not nobody, but hardly anybody gets complications, let's say, or dies from the abortion.
Yeah,
whereas before it was a disaster.
Oh, they were brutal. And that's why we need to be legal and be able to get the help they need.
Correct.
And of course, I like Murph.
Yeah, everybody tells me that.
Yeah, I like Murph.
You like Murph. Everybody did. He's got high morals.
Yeah.
He does have a temper, though.
Whoa.
I made him Irish like me, so I decided to give him an Irish temper. And I made him also like me in that he doesn't drink. So You know,
that's right.
That's where that came from. He doesn't drink like me. I'm always a designated driver.
Good idea.
So good idea.
Yeah, I like Murph, and I like his partner. His partner just kind of sits there and takes everything.
Well, you know what's
puts
funny
up with
is
him.
one of the reviewers who gave me a 5-star review said she liked it because, I assume it's a her, she liked it because that partner backed him up as a real partner would.
Yes.
Kept him from losing his temper, kept him from doing some of the things to the suspect that should not be done.
And I take it Murph is actually above the other guy.
Yes.
He's the boss.
Murph is the boss, and the other guy is his.
So I like Johnson, was it?
Who's that?
His partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so. But I liked him because
he called him Tom the whole time.
No, that's right.
Tom Johnson, yes.
And he paid attention to his partner, and obviously they must have worked together a long time because he knew exactly what he was going to do.
Exactly. Yes.
So, but it's excellent story, and I read it. Actually, I read it quicker than I do most of my books. I liked it so much I took it to bed with me at night.
Oh, good. I try to make it an easy read.
Yeah.
What some people call a quick read.
Yeah.
So that you get involved with it and you like the characters so much that you want to find out what happens next.
Yes.
You get to an end of a chapter and you say, I wonder what's going to happen next. So you read the next chapter.
And now you're going to have to write another one.
Yeah. Well.
It's going to be like Alex Cross.
Yeah. My son actually put a thing today in his blog. And he mentioned Death of the Innocents, and he said that this is the first of several Murph. So I don't think he's going to write them. I think he expects me to write them.
Maybe he's changing his mind about doing things.
It could be. He
take
could
right
do both
over.
the cover and the book.
Yeah, that's cool. But no, I thought it was very good. And I can't write mystery. I can think of ways to kill people, but I can't get it done on paper.
You need that. You have to be able to think of how am I killing people?
Yeah.
How can I get away with it?
And that's the other thing.
And how do I get caught?
Yeah. And I forget her name was one of the girls from Avon. And I can't remember her name. But she was down at one of our meetings talking about writing fiction. Mm-hmm. You got to know where to start. You got to know where to end, and you got to know how to get there.
Right.
And I thought,
it's true.
I would start, and I would just figure out later.
Yeah, this book, the other murder mystery, or Now Privileged, the only thing I had was the ending. The ending I liked so much that I knew I had to build a story around it. Okay. So then I had to find someone. Now, how am I going to get her there? How? Because it's another female. I write strong female characters, as you noticed. That's from my wife and my daughter.
Okay.
And how am I going to get them to that, get her to that? And then I had to back it up in my mind anyway, and kind of outline where I wanted her to start. And I knew she had to be naive, and I knew what was going to happen, approximately what was going to happen to her. Then I can connect the two by writing the beginning, the ending, and the middle.
Yeah.
So you're right, you have to think ahead.
Yeah, you got to know where you're going with it. And my two books, of course, they're memoirs. I had no ending, and a lady that taught writing, and she's gone now, but she said to me in my first book, she said, "I'm amazed that you have an ending." I said, "Why?" She said, "Most people don't know where to stop."
Yeah, it's true.
And because you can keep going, and I got another chapter,
Yeah.
But I didn't with my first book and my second book. I guess I did have a beginning and end because my first book was about my son, and I wanted to cover 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I did. And then the second book was about Mystic in the 50s. So I had to end it in 1959 because now you're in the 60s. So I did have an ending in it. And, but boy, you put a lot in the middle.
Well, you can. Yeah. And a lot of people make a mistake when they're writing a book that they, go over and over and over, and they keep editing it and editing and editing and never get to the end. They'll write 3 chapters, and then they edit that 3 chapters ad nauseum and never write a 4th chapter. And you've got to just say, okay, I got to put that aside. Otherwise,
start another book.
You start another book.
I have a friend of mine that did that, and she had 4 books out. Rewrote them all.
Rewrote them all, yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not going to buy any more books from her because I already bought the 4 books. Now she rewrote them.
Well, I didn't rewrite. I essentially wrote it. Not Privileged to Know was written in the 80s, and my wife would not let me publish it. I hope she doesn't see this TV show, but she said she liked the money I was making as a physician, and she didn't know whether I'd make it as an author, so she was afraid that we'd starve. So I said, fine, but as soon as I retire, I'm going to write it. Fine. Well, the difference between the 80s and now is we have cell phones.
Yeah.
I had them stopping using rotary phones in a phone booth, and I had to rewrite the whole thing, and I edited it 2 or 3 times before I gave it to her as my first editor, and then it goes to a regular editor, to make sure that I didn't leave anything in from the 80s. And I have another one that I wrote at that time, and I'm toying with the idea because people have said, why don't you make it an 80s genre book?
Yeah.
In other words, have the proponent, the first scene, pick up a newspaper with a date on it and a headline from that, and just leave it alone. Leave the phones and phone booths and everything else.
That's good, but if you got younger people reading it,
They won't know.
they have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. Isn't that scary?
It is, because I do things with my grandson, and he'll say, "What?
Yeah, what is that?
You gotta get new words, Pa." Like, new words? Why? I've been using these same words for 70 years.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
No.
We have a niece who keeps on Facebook sending pictures saying, if you know what this is, put a like on it.
Yeah.
A lot of people write, what is it? We all know.
Like it, I hacked to. I
Had it.
got
Marge
a couple in the
usually says,
basement.
I still have it. Yeah, exactly.
But it's true, because I know when I did my 50s book, I had to describe some of the things in there, because people reading it, if they're looking back for history, they have no idea what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to kind of lean that way.
I go from one time I think I'm going to do one, leave it in the 80s. Another time I said, no, I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
I brought this one up, and it was a heck of a lot of work, but it's a great book. So I think I'll do that way.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm leaning today. Tomorrow will be different.
And now, what book are you working on now?
I'm working on the second one in this series. This is a trilogy, not Privileged to Know. And the mistake in that book, and if anybody's listening, do not use privileged in your title. It's a great title. It fits perfectly with the book. Nobody can spell privileged. So I give them a card. They know the book is not Privileged to Know, and they spell it with a D. They spell it with an A, and then send me an email off my card saying, I can't find your book.
Yeah, you're on the way.
And I write back, how do you spell privilege? So when they tell me, I write them back and say, well, try this spelling. So I call it in the back of the book, it says there's going to be 2 others in the Privilege series. I'm changing it to the Know series, K-N-O-W. So it's going to be called Need to Know, but I'll keep the privileged information separate. And then the third one is going to be called In the Know, Privileged Few. It's a murder mystery again, but there's a political conspiracy running through the 3. And speaking of ending, I know how the third one ends, how the second one ends, and obviously how the first one ends. And you have to do that to plan ahead if you're going to do a trilogy.
And if you're using the same people, you got to figure out how he's going to stay alive.
Yeah, and you know what's confusing? A little bit confusing to me? I fell in love with one of the female characters in Not Privileged to Know that came out of nowhere, and I needed some information, so I made her a friend. And the friend came in, and by the end of the book, I loved her. I want to give her her own series, so I started that book, giving her own series, but she's also in the one I'm writing. I had to stop writing the other one because it got too confusing, which book I'm writing and which one is she in.
And what is she doing? And is she doing the wrong thing in the wrong
Exactly.
book?
She obviously has to survive to be in the new her own series.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a little bit different because these are murder mysteries. They all have friendship, love. They're all good against evil stories with good winning.
Yeah.
But with her, I want to make it a love story. I want to make it a romance. And by the way, there's a mystery that goes with it. So it's a little bit different. First time I ever attempted that. So we'll see how that works. You can interview me when that comes up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I like doing these shows, because you get to meet such different people like yourself, and people that, because I also interview people who are not authors. And like I say at our meetings, read a book. Find out what that guy's thinking, or the woman, because everybody's a little different. And everybody
approaches it different.
Yeah, and I've read some tremendous books. a lot of people stay away from local authors and they figure we're not don't know what we're doing. But there's been some good books.
There are, and I like the places, the bookstores that will have a local author section.
Yeah.
Because people like reading something from that local author, because usually, like mine is set in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So a Connecticut author will go there. Somebody from New York may say, I don't want to.
And I keep getting people saying, when are you going to write another book? I'm thinking, I don't know.
When are you going to find the time, right?
Yeah. I've got it started because it's going to be a bunch of different things. And I've got pages written. I've probably got half the book done. It's really just kind of putting it together. And it's going to be a little different. But another memoir type thing. And
well, you got to get to it. Put your nose to it.
But you're right. It's sitting down to do it.
Yeah, you need the motivation, and you just have to do it. You just have to sit down
and then I want to write another bereavement book. And
but see, those are nice because you're helping other people.
Yeah,
they really are. That's one of the reasons I wrote Death of the Innocents, because there are people out there who are suffering, who had an abortion. Now they regret it because they want a child and they can't have another child because of that or something related to that. And I want them to know that there is help out there, that they're not all alone. So I'm trying to help people through my story. You can do the same thing with the bereavement book.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, my first book helps people. And when I wrote the book, I was in grieving. I was totally out of it. I had no idea how I wrote the book. And my son, through a medium, said that he helped me write it. And I said, okay, so that's where I got those things from. Because there's stuff in there that I don't remember. Don't know where it came from. And people love it and get it.
It came from in you.
Yeah.
So it is really part of you, and that's why it's such a good book.
Yeah, and it's something that people can read it and learn something. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it so that people would know what people who have lost children go through.
Go through, exactly.
Because, boy, I'll tell you, you can't imagine. And I don't want anybody to have to go through it. But anyway, that's one of the things I'm trying to do is get that done, and then another one too. But we get off the subject. Now, where can we buy these books?
Well, there's a couple of places. You can buy them from my website, which is just billrockwell.net, and you can buy them right from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Which is why people have trouble finding Not Privileged to Know when they type in privileged wrong. But either one of them, if you type Death of the Innocents or Not Privileged to Know. If you go to my website, I have, they're all there, all of the first chapters, or the entire first chapter, and a summary of each, so you can read it, find out what it's about, and the reader can then read the first chapter, decide if they like the way I write or not. Yeah. As I said, as I tell people, I'm not a Hemingway. I don't spend 3 pages describing a front door that you'll never see again in the book.
No.
I hate that when that happens, and I skip those pages when I'm reading somebody else. Yeah. And so it's a little bit different, as you say. It's a quick read, easy read. Yeah. And if you read the first chapters, that'll get you started. If you think you're going to like the rest of it, you can go to my store in there or right on the home page, and it'll take you right to purchasing it.
I would recommend it. I can only recommend this book, but if the others are anything like this, written as well, you should read them all. And
I agree, but I'm prejudiced.
I know. Like I said, I get everybody on here. In 2 weeks, I'm going to have a lady that was raped, and she didn't know it. Well, she knew she was raped, but she didn't realize she was raped. Her mind had blocked it all out.
Oh, God.
And all of a sudden, she started having flashbacks and saying, what the heck is going on? And all of a sudden, then she started going to a therapist who started drawing all this stuff out. But she had it all locked away. And the book is called Wash It Away. In other words, get rid of it.
And that's a book that's going to help other women who get raped, unfortunately.
And realize it. But your mind blocks things like that out.
Yeah.
Says, you don't want to know this.
That's a defense mechanism for yourself.
Exactly.
And it really doesn't help in the long run. You're better off facing it if you can.
Yeah. And that's, I know when my son passed away, the doctor said, you want a little something to take the edge off? I said, no. I know that if I don't go through this head first, I won't get
Well,
through
you're
it.
going to go through it eventually anyway. So if you
Yeah.
take that little edge off, it's just going to be longer.
Yeah,
All you're doing
exactly.
is prolonging it.
So, but this is a good book, and she's very courageous. She puts a lot of stuff in it, and
When's it coming out?
it's out.
It's out already.
It's
though.
out.
Okay.
She's also a member of the. Our
Yeah, she was
group.
there that night.
Yeah, poor girl. She's the one with the dessert.
Yeah. We won't go there again.
Oh, poor Mary. Her name is Mary Bilby, and the book is Wash It Away. Excellent book. We try to get most of the books that come in. Most of the authors are really good authors,
Yeah.
and I think everybody should buy some books.
A lot of us have taken courses, umpteen courses, and read umpteen books about how to write a book.
Yeah,
And we apply that. So.
yeah, and that's what I was starting to say about reading other people's books, because you get an idea of what you're writing, what kind of books you're writing, and how you're telling your stories.
And how you compare to these other authors.
Yeah.
If you read somebody else that's better than you, you actually elevate yourself.
Yeah, and there was one Dick Benton from Kappa in Avon, and he's does the membership. I read one of his books, and it was like a Mission Impossible, and I'm thinking, how in the world did he get all this together? I mean, these people are doing these crazy things, and super boats, and it wasn't really science fiction. It was true life, but the way he put it all together, I said, I got to be another one, but I still haven't got another one of his books. But it's a lot of fun, and
Well, I enjoy writing. My wife says it's my hobby.
Yeah.
And it is, essentially.
so how long did it take you to write this?
It took me, the first draft took me 9 months.
Really?
And then it was 2 years to get it to that. Because I would go edit it, I would edit it. I was working on another book, and then I'd go back to this one and re-edit it when the editors told me what mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Or my wife took it and X'd out this whole paragraph and said, delete that. And okay, but how do I get that information out? And
Yeah.
so I had to figure out a different way. So it took me a total of 3 years.
Yeah,
So
my first book took 10.
10. Wow.
My second one, I think, was 2. Because the second one was just all memory, boom, boom.
I would say 2 to 3
Yeah.
probably is an average for
Yeah, I think that's
a
around 2 to
novel.
3 years. But people say, well, I don't know where to start.
Well, I have so many stories up here going through my mind. I got to put it on paper.
Yeah.
I got to get it out, put it on my
And
computer.
that's what I tell people, say, turn the computer on and just start
and
typing.
just start typing. Exactly.
When you're done, you're done. Then you look at it and see
Right.
what you're going to do with it. But I never had a problem writing.
Knock on wood, I have never had a problem. I've never had writer's block.
No.
And
I was just amazed that I could write. I said,
See?
I did that.
Well, there are a lot of people out there who probably can write and who just never
They
get
just-
around
yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Or they've started one chapter, threw it in the drawer, and then forget about it.
Yeah.
And they have to go back to that if they
yeah.
truly want to.
See, my first one took so long because I started 3 years after my son died, and I wrote the first chapter. Not first chapter, but first part of the book. And then I put it away because the depression was killing me.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, I wrote the second chapter, the second part of it. And then 3 years went by, and I wrote the last part, section. But I had to be able to write,
Right, exactly.
because my mind was. And I wrote the first one. I said, "Boy, I'm doing good." But then when I sat down and tried to write some more, I couldn't. Nothing would come out.
Yeah.
And
We had 2 of our own children, and then my wife's sister died at age 36, and the husband had MS, couldn't take care of the kids. We took those 3 teenagers, and so we had our 3-year-old and 7-year-old, and we got a 12, 14, and 16-year-old. And my wife won't let me write any of the stories that those kids put us through because life had kicked them in the teeth. And they came in, and they're all straightened out now. Believe me,
Yeah.
they're all great. And I don't think, she keeps saying because I'm going to hurt the kids, but I think it's because she can't face what I would write down, and she's my editor, she'd have to read it.
Yeah.
So I'm respecting her. So I know what you're going through. It never happened to me, but
Yeah. And it's just, of course, now I got this Loved Ones Lost group that I'm doing. And people come in there and I ask them to grab the Kleenex, do what you got to do. Because it's all of us are in the same boat. We've all
Yeah.
done the same thing.
One
Yeah.
way or another. We're all in the same boat.
And it's not just the ones you lose somebody. It's friends and relatives.
Exactly.
Friends and relatives of the person that dies.
Right.
It affects everybody.
Yes. And the people who are left over are the ones who really
We got to
feel
put
it
up with
most.
it. Exactly. We got about 5 minutes left. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Not really. Just if you like a good read, I've got 2 murder mysteries. I have one vampire love story. I had to write that because of all the teenagers that are watching the vampire movies. That's called Generation Z: Birth of the Zombie. Much too long a title. And I have an inspirational story about Lucifer's downfall in heaven. And both of those do very well, but they have smaller audiences than murder mysteries, which is why I think I'll stay in murder mysteries.
Yeah.
So Death of the Innocents and Not Privileged to Know.
That's how Patterson got rich.
Yeah. And now using co-writers. He just comes up with an idea and everybody else writes it. I hope I never do that.
I watched him on Saturday morning,
Yeah.
and he was saying he writes the outline. And the people that he's got working for him know what he wants,
Yeah.
and they just fill it
They
in.
just fill it in.
Yeah.
I
But-
hope I never do that.
But he's got file drawers, 143 books he's got ready to go. And they're called pocket books or something. They're 143 pages.
Uh-huh.
And he says it's like a short movie. And they're just starting to come out at $5 a piece.
Wow.
And 125 pages. He had 143 books, 125 pages, under 125 pages. But just get them out there.
And they'll sell.
Oh, God, yeah.
They'll sell. His name will sell.
That's all it takes. And he's 80 years old.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, my God. And he also has kids' books.
Yes,
Really?
he does. You're right.
He's really heavy into kids. But we have, and I like reading him. And he's very interesting and weird.
Yeah, definitely.
I got a couple of announcements. In case you've seen some of the reruns lately, it's because I took a couple of days off, kind of like a summer vacation. I'm going to take a couple more off in August. I want to thank you for your patience, and I thank you for watching the reruns. And I'm sure they weren't boring because you probably forgot the ones from the beginning anyway. So I think it was getting to the point where you just have to back off a little bit, and that's what I did. While I was gone, I celebrated my 4th year of Books and Things with over 200 shows, which I find difficult to imagine.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 4 years. And I thank you for your support again. I enjoy doing the shows. I'm meeting people and talking to my viewers, and I thank SEC TV for making it possible. I think we learn together. When I bring an author in or somebody else, I learn a little more about the author and some other ways of life. And I think we try to pass that on to the audience and trying to help everybody out. The next Loved Ones Lost session will be at the Groton Regency on July 24th at 6:30 p.m. The Park Deck VFW will be serving fish and chips Friday. That's tomorrow. They do this every month on the second Friday of the month. And that's on South Broad Street in Park Deck next to the high school. Come on over, or you can call for a takeout at 860-599-2404. I will answer the phone and take your order. Tonight, the VFW is serving chowder and clam fritters. And the stop by proceeds go for a good cause. The local authors are doing a Groton Farmers Market on Tuesdays from 3 to 6 at the Washington Park. And so stop over. I'll be there next week. You should be reading. Cuddle up with a good book. I know it's kind of warm, but turn the air conditioner on and you can cuddle up with a good book. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.